Hello, true art believers. How is everyone doing today? How are you doing today? Welcome to today's installment of the Artist Interview Series. Today, I will be talking with fine artist Jennifer Klemp. Jennifer is a painter, color theory lover, student of life and philosophy, and now sober artist. Before we start, please make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell. Thank you, and enjoy the conversation. Jennifer Klemp, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Thank you.
You're doing pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, everything on your, the whole intro that looked so official and fantastic. I was just sitting here like, wow. Yeah, I'm excited.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's not as fancy as you think, although it probably is fancier than most. You should have saw the first one I did. Oh gosh, it was something. So each preceding one gets a little bit better, or at least I try to fine tune it, right? So yeah. Jennifer, what's the best way to start the morning?
So are we talking about habits?
No, what's the best? Okay, let me rephrase it. What's the best way to start the day?
Well, honestly, with alignment, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, so it's really important. I'm studying the law of attraction right now, and it is really important to start your day aligning with all of the positive things that you want in your life. So I've been told, and I've read, and I've studied that if you start your day with 17 minutes of positive thinking, and this is the best time to do this is in the morning, then your day will go much better. So positive thoughts.
So alignment, what's that mean, like specifically?
So alignment is where we want to align with our life purpose, right? I mean, I think we're all here for a reason and for a very specific purpose. So we all want to get into alignment with that. So that's basically the overall goal, is to get into alignment with our true purpose and our true desires. Yeah, so I mean, not totally easy every day and every morning, but the best time to do it is in the morning through meditation, but a lot of people have trouble getting into meditation. So I guess what I would say is to find moments, so you can even do this in the shower. Because most people take a shower in the morning. So, to clarify, if you're not in meditation, obviously if you are in meditation, to clarify what you would like for your day, please help me, whoever you're asking, whether that be God, your higher self, or your inner being, help me to live with purpose during my day, is basically the overall. And then you can ask your higher self, or whoever you want to ask, if it's the universe, God, whatever word you use, you can ask for what specific things I need to do next, because sometimes like the overall picture of our day is too big, so if we have 17 minutes of positive thinking, that's generally speaking, I guess, what the goal is.
So 17 minutes, where'd you get that time? Like that, why specifically 17 minutes?
Yeah, so I've been reading The Law of Attraction Essential Collection by Esther and Jerry Hicks, and that's a whole conversation. But these are the teachings of Abraham, basically. So if you want to know about it, I could tell you more, but I mean,
so is there a reason why it's specifically 17 minutes?
This seems to just put your whole day and your whole, the scales, into the right. We want the scales to be in our favor, right? I mean, we want our day to be. So according to Abraham, which I could get into, and it's kind of woo-woo. It's kind of woo-woo if you want to talk about it.
I love woo-woo.
Okay, if you love woo-woo.
You can woo-woo it up.
Okay, so Esther Hicks and Jerry Hicks were a couple, and Jerry Hicks had questions about life in general, all the questions that we have, like what is the meaning of my life, and how do I what's our main purpose, and all of those things, and so he was looking for answers, and he and his wife Esther started meditating for 15 minutes a day, and this is all explained on how this process happened in this book that I'm reading, which is The Essential Law of Attraction Collection. So she explains how this happened, and so she started channeling, channeling information from the other side, spirit world. So she's a channeler. So she originally started. It tells the whole process in the book, but she started transcribing what they were saying on a typewriter, and then eventually she came to be able to take what they were saying and translate that into. She gets the channeling in blocks of thought. So yeah, I mean it's really major woo woo. So, but this is what Abraham says, and so far everything that I've read in this book is totally on point. So I believed in the law of attraction prior to reading this book. However, I just Esther and Jerry Hicks that work with Abraham, which is the channeled spirits of Abraham. That is kind of that's more advanced law of attraction learning. So I always did a vision board. I always believed in it. I always believed that I co-created my reality. But the Abraham Hicks teachings is kind of top of the line law of attraction stuff. Yeah. So they say 17 minutes. Abraham says 17 minutes.
So when you are meditating, what does a meditation entail? Because there's a few I've talked to a lot of artists. I don't know if this is just something that this started happening, or maybe it's like a secret that people don't want to talk about because it's embarrassing to say, oh, you meditate, oh, you're just a weird dude who meditates. Apparently there's a lot of people meditate and they don't talk about it, or they do their own version of meditating. I've spoken with artists where they talk about how they feel it's like a river of thoughts, and your hands are trying, your brain's trying to grab those thoughts, and you're just supposed to let those thoughts flow with the river. And then others were like, you want to focus on your breathing, and you have to do it specifically through the nose, out through the mouth. Yeah. Specifically, not you can't just, it has to be through the nose, out through the mouth. I was going to say now for a second because no, I did a word merge where I took nose and mouth and just merged them. So you want to breathe through the mouth. No, so through the nose, out through the mouth, and then others were talking about you want to basically kind of roll your eyes up while your eyes are closed to look in the center of your forehead, to find your third eye, I guess. That's what they're talking about. And so I hear different variations. I hear some people will just for a minute to 5 minutes, just try to focus on the calm. You know, you have a lot of
Yes.
people respond and say that they love your work. So that's great. And
Okay. Well,
by the way, feel free to ask questions if you like to. We're just going to keep talking, and if you want to drop a question for Jennifer, just ask it in the comment section, and we will answer it.
yeah. So we are going to be talking about the work pretty soon, but I guess we have to go down this woo-woo path first.
So
So,
how do you meditate? What's your meditation like?
so I have a lot of different meditations, and this is something that I've been working on for probably 20 years.
20
So,
years.
yeah. So there's a really good book by DK. Do you know the DK brand? Do you meditate, Matt?
Not. What was it? One other artist said, if you don't have time for meditation, that's when you actually need to do it the most. That's what one of the quotes I heard. One of the previous artists, actually, Kyle, is it Kylie or Kyle Hollingsworth? I don't want to mess up the name. I'm glad, but that was the quote. I want to say Kyle or Kylie. I'm really drawn. I'm having a brain fart, so I don't want to.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Miss Hollingsworth said that was one of the really interesting person. She's done like 3,000, 2,000, or she's done over 1,000 days of gratitude.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
But but she said something along the lines of, if you don't have time to meditate, you actually need to meditate. So sometimes I do, but I'm just gonna like say I don't have time, but I probably need to the most.
Okay. Okay. So there's this little book that I think I started with, and it's like 101 ways to meditate. It's super thin. It's like this big. And this, it's like one of these small books. That's where I started, really. And then with my yoga practice, because meditation is just something that you do in your yoga practice. So I've been taking yoga since I've been married. My husband and I have been married for 18 years. So, but in January, I really started meditating because I am doing a lot of meditation. I covered meditation as a topic in my other brand for sobriety. It's called Sunrise Today. So that's why I really like. So every topic that I'm covering on my Instagram feed, then I kind of like immerse myself into that topic.
Mm-hmm.
So my meditation is really, so what I say to people if they're trying to practice meditation, which is so helpful with your art, because basically when we're doing our art, we're in a meditative state. So you probably are meditating that, but you just don't realize that you're meditating. Because I feel like that doing your art and being, into your art in that place of joy. I mean, are you in your art and in the place of joy?
I think they call it flow.
You're in the flow. So to me, that's meditation, where you're in a spot where you're just in the moment, and that's what artists love to do. We love to create our work. I mean, most artists are creating their work, and you lose track of time, right? Most artists will say that or report that. To me, that's meditation, where you're getting in touch with your inner being. So, as far as so I do a lot of different meditations, but my main meditation is really super boring. So I just, so I use a combination of meditation and prayer. And this is best done in the morning, and this is also according to Abraham, but I've known this through many years of practice. Is that in the morning you're just more fresh, you're not as tired, so that's the best time to meditate. Make time for meditation. So what I do is I ask for any spirits that are in assistance to my life purpose and plan to help assist me in the meditation specifically. And then I ask for any angels, because I do believe that we all come to this life with at least 3 angels. So then I ask for angel guidance through the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And then and any ascended masters. So I basically cover all the bases of anybody on the other side, if you're here to help me, then help me with this meditation. And then it gets super boring, where this is my usual meditation. And I have many, but this is just the typical one, to ask to help me to live my life purpose through the day. And then I ask, deep breathing is how you get into pretty much any meditation. So I do at least the 12 breaths. And if I'm not centered, then I repeat that. And then, so everybody from the other side is already there with me. They're helping me. And then I see what comes. So I try to envision my day sometimes, and what I want to achieve for my day, because, to think big and large and all of that is great, but really, the everyday is what's going to accumulate to make your large dreams come true. So
I believe that.
Yep. So, so then when I'm totally quiet, when I'm not envisioning my day anymore, I just ask for visions and see what comes up. Because artists are really good at envisioning. So, that's how we do everything, pretty much, is that we see our artwork, sculpture or ceramic piece or whatever it is, painting, we see that, and then, then we have to create it. So artists are super good at envisioning. So envisioning is a really important aspect, I think, to everyone. But because everybody can envision. But for artists, it's really important. So people get information intuitively in several different ways. And for the artists, I feel like a lot of that is envisioning. So you can see visions. But a lot of people are clairaudient, where they can hear things. A lot of people can smell things. So it just depends on how if you're trying to tap in to that intuitive energy, to if you're getting into meditation, the information that you're receiving can come in many different forms. But for the artist, I do believe it's most of us would report envisioning. Yeah. So then I ask for any visions from all of those spirit, from spirit world, that's there to help me. Yeah. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I stumbled across some person talking about. So you mentioned like people hear things. I was watching some videos, and this person was talking about if your ears ring, like not tinnitus ringing, but if they ring, if you got like this kind of like this, like you hear a ringing type noise.
Yes.
That you're like supposedly functioning on a higher like subconscious plane. Have you heard of that? You heard of something like that, where like you're there's like levels to what people perceive, I guess.
Sure.
And ringing ears. Some people would say it's tinnitus, but some people are stating that that's like you are actually taking in things that other people aren't.
So the main way to figure out if you're getting information intuitively or getting intuitive guidance, because everybody can tap in at anyone can tap in at any time to their intuitive guidance. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting ringing in the ears, then it's important to note where you are, and you can write it down. So it's good to keep a notebook, like what happened in your day, where are you, what are you experiencing, and how do you feel? So you would write down those things. And then if it happens again, you would repeat that process of writing that down on a note card or in your journal, if you keep that with you, because a lot of artists keep journals. Or sketchbooks or whatever, and then you'd write that down. Got ringing in the ears. I was whatever you were doing. I was taking a walk with my dog, and it was 5 p.m. and whatever it is, your details. And then the more that happens, so the more that you tap in, if you are getting guidance, like if you're getting this ringing, some people get sensation. That's what happens to me in meditation, is that you get a sensation of tingling. Have you ever had that?
No.
Like tingling or like, like goosebumps, tingling throughout the body
I
or
have
on a
got
certain area.
the only thing I've gotten with meditation is I did it for so long that I ran out of thoughts. And I was it was really interesting because there was no thoughts, which is it sounds weird, like I wasn't thinking anything, because like there's always something running in the back of your head.
Yeah.
But there was like a point where I nothing, and then the timer rang, and I opened my eyes, and I felt really good, because like there was nothing there. Not like, oh, I'm like empty up there, but like no, there was a very intriguing calm that came. And then I was like, maybe if I do that every day, it's going to be like that. And then it was like, no, I was like chasing something that was very hard to achieve. And the more I tried to that to happen, it never happened.
So you have been meditating. You just described to me. You just described that you were meditating and you reached a state where there were no longer any thoughts. So this is really rare. So you need to keep doing it. You need to keep doing it.
That was really rare. It was actually, I liked it.
Keep doing it.
But again, as I said, like people that don't have time need to do it the most. Because I think I had to do it for like 40 minutes to an hour or some really long time to like, for all the thoughts to just run out of steam, right? Which was usually around that time, this is a funny, not really funny story, but it's funny to me. I tried doing that a couple times afterwards, mm-hmm. and then I did it for so long that my legs went numb, and I stood up and I took a step, and my legs just went. I just fell down like a tree because I couldn't feel my legs at all, and I fell down face first. And I just start laughing because it was like I didn't expect it. You didn't know that your legs were like literally dead legs, because I was sitting there the whole time and they're gone.
Well, you're describing to me what I mean, like, so monks, try to achieve this state all of their lives, so to achieve states where we are feeling complete and total peace, joy, and love, where we're not aware of our body. We might have moments like that. So when we're doing our art, we have moments like that, which is why art is so fantastic. Maybe if we're exercising, we have moments like that. So when we're in these, true states of joy, 40 minutes is a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not up to 40 minutes. So, but now I think you have a 3-year-old, and so you probably are not doing a lot of 40-minute meditations.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think this was prior to all of this.
Prior to you were in an exploratory phase. So
yeah,
anyway.
But don't get me wrong, it was a fluke. It was
not a fluke. No. If you tapped in, you don't think that way. If you tapped in, you can tap in again, and that's the great thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably tapping in all the time when you do your art.
Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes a little frustrated. I can be an emotional artist, and the thing about art is you can't always be emotional, which is kind of like weird. There's a balance you have to kind of like teeter-totter on, because there's some art, like when you're doing like very technical art, you can't really be like emotional. You got to be a little bit more attentive and focused, So I wanted to bring this up briefly because we went a huge little thing, but I want to know if you are familiar with Nikola Tesla's 369 methodology. or what's it called?
No,
Whatever he calls it.
I'm not, but I know that obviously Tesla is like he's a genius.
Yeah.
But I do know also the one random fact that I know about him is that he doesn't like he has a bad relationship with his kids or one of his children, or I don't know. There are a couple of his kids. I don't quote me on this. There are a couple of his kids that don't talk to him. So
Are we
he's a
talking about?
genius.
Are we talking about Elon Musk or Nikola
Oh, I'm
Tesla?
sorry, Elon Musk. Hello.
No,
Jeez.
I wasn't talking. I was
Tesla.
talking. That's
Anyway.
Tesla is the car. Nikola Tesla is the genius from the 1900s or I don't know what frame like time frame he
Okay.
was.
Tell
Um,
me the 369. I'm sorry.
Also, 369 is his he was a mathematician. Well, he was more than that, but he said like if you can understand the numbers 369, you like know you understand the universe. And the part of it, the reason part of it that's well, let me backtrack. So the there's this concept or idea where you state what you want 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times in the evening. You
Oh,
know, so kind of like a different form of affirmation,
right.
and so like you state what you want with clarity. Doesn't matter what time, but like 3 times, 6 times, and 9 times. You do that every day, and apparently that's a way of getting some of that law of attraction that you've been talking about.
I have to look that up, but I really like it. I like that uh, method for attracting what we desire. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
I
A plus. I want to do it.
I,
Let's do
I
it.
think I think it's funny. Well, not funny, but it's interesting the affirmation aspect because like the as you say woo woo, but the idea is people there's some things about this I can kind of get into like so the people think that like oh if you write these things down nothing's going to happen. But I think what people like the average person is not getting even if there is actual like weird mythical stuff that we don't know about like mystic woo woo stuff occurring that we can't comprehend
Yes.
the the very fact of stating the things that you want or stating the things that you want to become or stating who you are in a positive manner. I just came across this quote. Actually, this is my quote. It might be someone else's. I don't know. I think I said this the other day with another artist, and I thought it was really good. You model your behavior around the words that you say, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
even if there is no even if there's like no woo woo or like none of that stuff that more ethereal spirited stuff that we're talking about,
Yeah.
the fact that you're stating those things over and over again, you are building a mental callus subconsciously that will start making you take actions towards those goals.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're constantly reaffirming yourself. Just like people, when you wake up and you say, "I'm tired," you're going to be more tired. Or "I'm sad," you're going to be more sad. There's actual science behind this. If you think it, it affects your actual mood. And if you state it out loud, it actually has more power subconsciously because your mind starts to believe it more than just thinking it. For some odd reasons, having it written down or stating it out loud actually does more harm. It's weird. I don't know much about it. I find it very interesting and bizarre at the same time. Um, so what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, you're talking about the law of attraction.
In just a
So
nutshell.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're talking about, uh, stating words. Are we talking about identity? Stating the words that you are or what you want?
Yeah, it's up that is something, like
So here's the thing
stating
that's
words.
yeah. So here's the thing that I've been reading so much about, and that is that and this is also not just through the work of Esther and Jerry Hicks, Teachings of Abraham, but it's also uh, Goddard, Neville Goddard says
Hmm.
this. So the feeling. So you have to also feel. Okay. So two things. So two things. So you have to feel that you are this way. So let's
Hmm.
use our artist. We're artists. So for a lot of people that are doing artwork or that are creatives, they want to be an artist, but they don't quite believe that they're an artist yet, right? Because there's a friend of mine, her name's Samantha. She's like, it was in one of her posts on Instagram, like, what is the point where you say, like, I'm an artist? Because there are a lot of people who dabble and who paint and who, I mean, like, I mean, Instagram is crazy with all of the amount of creatives now that are trying to put
Hmm.
their work out there. So what's the point where you're an artist?
Yeah.
You're like, who defines this? So the law of attraction would say that you define this.
Hmm.
So you're the only person that really defines this. So I write down that I'm an artist, like you're saying, right? I am an artist. But if I don't really believe that I'm an artist, it's not going to stick.
Yeah.
So that's where habits come in kind of handy, because if I'm doing the work of an artist, if I'm doing creative work 1 to 2 hours a day, then I reinforce the fact that I am an artist. I'm providing physical evidence that I'm an artist. So you can write down, I am an artist. But if you're never actually doing any artwork,
Yeah.
you're going to have a hard time believing that you are an artist, right? So it's sort of like psychologically, because we have, this thinking brain, we have to provide ourselves with evidence that we actually are artists. And that's done through the actual work, the work of being an artist. So that's why it's important to set up a schedule for whatever it is that you want to do. In our case, we're artists. So, we want to spend whatever your amount of time is that you've set in your mind is okay, to practice your work. We want to set up that time. So 1 to 2 hours a day, you know, is basically like where I'm at right now. But
So break that down a little bit more. Like really go in depth with your schedule. How do you
oh,
do you schedule your day? Do you block in 30 minutes? Do you schedule your week? Do you like do it in the morning? Do you do it at night? Do
mhm.
you before you go to bed? Do you just like vision what the day is going to like what you're going to be doing verbatim? What is scheduling to you?
Oh my goodness. So I've been working for years at trying to get a schedule down,
It's
and
hard.
I've been studying this for years, and I can tell you that I still am working it because it's very difficult. So if we have family, like I have two kids, you have a 3-year-old, so you get it, and I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, so when they were young, it was, gosh, I was a mess. I mean, it was a mess. It was, and so
The Wild West.
but then you think when they're little, like, anyway, so you asked me about my schedule. It, that's another topic. Like, you think when they're little that it's going to get, like, you're so busy when they're little, especially if you have two. I had two
Mhm.
that were less than 3 years apart. So those were really busy years, but it just gets more busy with other stuff, So I try new things all of the time. So I have a kind of a cycling schedule. So exercise is very important to me, and cycling is my favorite form of exercise. So I try to do that in most mornings. My schedule changes because my kids' schedules change. So in the summer, I'm with them. They don't go to, elsewhere. They're with me. So they're 10 and 13. They're a little bit more self-sufficient, but you have a lot of more distractions. This is where meditation comes in handy, because you kind of learn to, work with your distraction or eliminate your distraction. You cannot eliminate your kids, however, so you just kind of have to deal with that distraction. So summer, the schedule definitely changes, but I try to get in what I've taken up, I would say since last year actually, is a full focus planner. So it's a Michael Hyatt and Company planner, which I'm free promoting them right now. Obviously, they don't pay me. But I use Michael Hyatt planner, and that's the best one that I found that I've been working for years to perfect. Michael Hyatt and Company. So I'm in deep with Michael Hyatt. They work more with businessy business.
Yeah.
Executives and all of that. But their planner is the best I've found. So I try to, their system is identifying your big three, or your 3 for the day, and then your 3 for the week. So I'm trying to do that, and it's not always perfect. I have ADD. I have ADD, which my son also has, which my father has. I'm assuming it's genetic. So we have a little trouble focusing. So this is, it's really important to be able to try to focus.
Yeah.
When you have these things, which I don't take medicine for. So I use the full focus planner to identify my big three. And then, most of the time I am just trying to get in, especially in the summer, 1 to 2 hours of creative work, because there's so many other things now that you can do as an artist that you need to be doing as an artist.
Oh yeah.
So right now you do your work, but then you also do your interviews and your producing, on YouTube, and where else are you? Twitch and
everywhere.
You do your production. You do the production of your actual work, so that takes a lot of time, and it also took you a lot of time to learn all that stuff. So you got to take that time too. So artists have so many. You're an entrepreneur too. The artist who is just alone in the studio, just making their work for 7 hours a day, I feel is gone. I wish that we could do that now. But that's never, you got to get your work out there. So what I do is I try to do at the beginning of my week, on the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, that while we're in the school year, while my kids are in school, there's a little bit more time. So I identify my weekly. They have a weekly preview that you do, where you identify your goals for the week. And then they also have a section where you identify your yearly goals. So, yeah. So I am very that all goes back to meditation too. So that's why I use meditation also, is so that I can identify, I can get my things done that I need to get done, that I feel that I need to get done to move me along for my lifelong goals, for my yearly goals. So that's why I say my meditations are really boring, because I'm just focused. I just want to be able to focus better on what I'm doing. So that's, I don't know if I really answered your question. Did I answer your question?
You kind of went in a little bit. You have a planner. You focus on something, 3 things a day. and 3 major things for the week, and then you have some yearly goals. How many yearly goals do you have? Like, is it like a 10? Is it 3 big goals, or like is there a number, or is it just this constantly adding to it, or?
Okay, so that like right now, I think I have like 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
8 or 9.
And so you have.
But that'll change. That changes. You'll find like through the year, as you're going, because things happen, So then, like, okay, for instance, like so when we had COVID, or when we were in COVID times, we still, it's like that's not over. We're kind of going back into that with the D variant and all. Anyway, when I, like in 2019, I wanted to get sober. I mean, that was one of my goals. I mean, that's a big goal. You kind of have to press pause for that for a little bit. So that's and then I wanted to do a journal. Well, that's a big goal. So that would be like a yearly goal. And then I have like 4 paintings for my year. For this year, I want to do 4 large paintings in my geometric style that I do. So I have 4. So I wanted to do 1 per quarter, right? So that's a goal. That's my yearly goal. So I'm trying. So the planner, the Michael Hyatt planner, like kind of leads you to identify, like, you need to be looking at your yearly goal and making sure that your weekly goals reflect what your yearly goals are. Mm-hmm. So somewhere in this year, it came to my attention that I really needed to like get a new website created. Mm-hmm. Like, this is kind of like I need to stop working on my 4 paintings, my 4 large paintings that I'm doing, which are super large. I mean, they're like 5 feet by 4 feet or something, which is, as is like kind of a tremendous amount of work. So, I had to stop that because I'm like, I really need to get, like, I really want to get these prints, because I was making sketches for the large paintings. So, you have to make 25 sketches, right, for these large paintings, the 4 large paintings. Well, some of the sketches are really good, and I just want to make them into prints, right? So then that's a whole thing. And then I want to get them into a new website, because my website, quite frankly, was terrible. So then that's a whole thing. So then the website turns into the yearly goal, when I didn't intend it to be a yearly goal at the beginning of 2021. So then I've got to work towards, like, what are we doing to get the website going? What am I doing to get the website going? So your yearly goals change, but it's important to have yearly goals, I think.
Oh, I have them. I'll bring them up a little later.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to know what they are, really.
Well, you mentioned journal. I keep one right here. It's got a bunch of stickers on it. It's got a $100 shiny sticker. I don't know why. It's also got a $50 shiny sticker. Don't know why. And it's got rainbows and cats dancing because I put them on there. And I write them. I have some goals here. Like, I do the same thing. Like artist interviews, right? So I write down some the artist interviews. I check them as to show a way of progress, reaffirming that there is progress. So having those little check marks work. Yes. And then I started out with 100 days of drawing. Then I live stream. And then I moved it to 200 days of drawing.
Yeah.
And I've just been doing that. So I get it. I get the journaling and get the goal setting. And it's all about those habits and the way that things that you say about yourself really kind of help you achieve some of those goals, right? And also, I think journals and having some sort of like something to kind of show like visually progress, because like like tangible, not like, oh, when you do a video, when I do an artist interview or do a live stream, it's on YouTube. It's like on, it's an intangible type of thing. But something about checking it off or checking that day off uh, um, shows like momentum in a sort, in a way,
Yes. Yes.
you know. So I totally understand the art of journaling and all that jazz, and I get it. You know, I think there is some benefit. I think no, there is benefit because I if I wasn't like documenting it, I probably wouldn't be doing something like this. Because it's they're it's really big endeavors. You know, there it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, and it can be difficult and challenging, which is exciting. But also, I think having it like being visually showing in a that you've done by hand, written in a journal stating that you did this check, right? Like tonight, check Jennifer Klemp, right?
Right.
I did an interview, done. Put a little X next there, and then I move on to the next artist. And it sounds really weird, but like it helps reaffirm that I've kind of done something, you know, like I've habit stacked or habit formed through the act of journaling. Um, I think I find it interesting that we went from, well, not really too interesting, but like we kind of segued from the habits to journaling. I wanted to ask one question before we move forward a little bit more about painting. You said you paint for 1 to 2 hours. Is there a set time that you do that? Do you have a specific time, or is it like
Okay. Yeah.
kind of like I try to do it whenever I have a small opening? Because there's writers that do that. I hear that there is a there'd be a writer like, oh, where's Fred? Oh, Fred's upstairs because there was a lull in the conversation and he snuck off and wrote a few sentences. Now he's back down, you know, right? Like some people do that. And then some people will do it at the end of the day. Some people do it in the morning. Some people have designated times, you know. I always find that really interesting to hear how people construct their not construct their day, but like how they go about designated time for their craft.
Yeah. So the summer's been really, so like I said, the schedule changes according to my children.
I
So
know that.
my children are with me all summer.
Mm-hmm.
So children take a lot of energy,
Oh yeah.
as it turns out. I mean, who knew, right? I thought I would just be able to make artwork, and then my kids, I don't know. I mean, I just thought they'd be like in the corner. Like,
using their energy for good.
like, we love you making your art, mommy, something like that. But as it turns out, they're not like that. So,
okay. Yeah. I get it. That's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, so this summer has been kind of about things that I can do while managing my children. So if you are a parent, like you might find yourself in this situation as well. So the things that I can do is, and I'm going to get back to that, like time. Okay. That I paint. So in this summer specifically, well, being a taxi cab for my children, which everybody who has children that are 10 and 13 or around that age is very familiar with the taxi cab parenting thing. So the things that I can do, mainly I've been working on getting the art that I've made for the past 2 years, like on my website, and how are we going to print these things? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of logistics that go into that. So I'm trying to do like one thing a day, one thing, that will propel those two aspects into the universe, into our world, into our physical world. Yeah. So, whether that be like, I spent like almost a whole week on getting stickers that say Jennifer Klemp artist on them, which seems crazy, right? But, that's like an important component of the whole deal, because, when I put my art in the little, in the packaging, and then I have to put the sticker on there, that sticker is important. Anyway, my point is that I've been focusing this summer on just doing like 1 to 2 things a day to get my work to the web, like get the website up and going. So, and that includes like getting prints done of the work, and not necessarily, and I'm doing a blog. I'm actually, so I have 2 things going, which is the Sunrise Today, which is my brand for sobriety. And then I have the artwork. So this is, so Instagram, I'm doing a lot of Instagram because I feel that I need to do Instagram for the promo, all of that. So that's what this summer has been about, and managing the children who are in swimming, scouts, and what else do we have? Oh, biking. So they're on a cycling team. So anyway, that's been my summer. But when we are into fall, I do my bike ride. I come back, I shower, I get ready, and then I try to do at least 2 hours of work. If I don't get in that, and I do set a timer. So I'm a chronic timer.
I get it.
Buyer. So I have a Taylor timer, not a phone timer. So this would be a practical tip. So I have a Taylor timer from Target. 3 T's. Taylor timer from Target. So the Taylor timer, I set it for 30 minutes. And then, so the 30 minutes gives me a moment to stand, like I make myself work. So I don't know if this is kind of like OCD, but anyway, this is the system I've developed. So I try to at least get in when they are in that school year, 1 to 2 hours, So I set the Taylor timer for 30 minutes, and then I write down how many 30-minute segments I do. Mm-hmm. And I make sure, so that's in the afternoon. And if other things get in the way and I have to go get them, which is 2:45, I turn into a pumpkin, just like Cinderella. So 2:45 is when I gotta hit the car and go get them, bring them back home. That's a whole half-hour turnaround time. Then I say, Mom's going to the studio. And so they can kind of settle in because they're older. And then I make sure that my 2 hours are done. So somewhere between, because I get my workout in the morning, come home, shower and all of that, get into the studio. Transition times, everybody, I think, misestimates their transition times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it takes you, there are studies out there, it takes you 15 minutes to settle in. I think that's totally true. Mm-hmm. So if I take, for instance, if I do my workout, I shower, I get ready, and then I come over to the studio, it'll take me at least 15 minutes to settle in. So settle in times are important too, I think, because you can be cleaning. There are all things that you can do in your studio that will contribute to the work you do as an artist. Mm-hmm. So that includes the maintenance of your studio. It's kind of important to keep your studio clean, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We make such messes all of the time, so you can clean, I'm always so that 15-minute, 20-minute settle in time includes I put on some good music. I clean out my sink. Clean up, I organize something, and I set the timer for that too. So that's probably super OCD as well. But these are the techniques that I've developed over time. So, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing what I've come across is called the Pomodoro method.
Oh, is it? Well, then let's.
Yeah.
What's the okay? So let me write that down.
It's based off the Pomodoro timer that those old school potato timers or tomato timers that are those tomato red timers that people would your mother would have when you were a kid, mm-hmm. and you turn it. Well, basically what it entails is you would do 25 minutes on where you work, no distractions, and then you do 5 minutes off where you don't do the thing that you were doing. So you take a 5-minute break, then you go back and do 25 minutes on, and then 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, up to about 2 hours. And the reason why 2 hours is because no matter what people say, science is going to be against them on this. Um, you have of an upwards of roughly like 4 hours. Like generally, this is like this is the general population. There might be some other people out there that are able to do this on a higher level of upwards of the 4 hours of like deep work, deep focus,
Yeah.
where you can you can focus on a task that's mentally demanding, mentally and physically, hand-eye coordination demanding, like that stuff that requires a lot of deep focus for roughly 2 to 4 hours. After that, like you're working, but like you're getting diminishing returns. You're not as effective because your ability to make effective decisions with regards to art or whatever work that you're doing is going to be stunted after that for some odd reason.
Yeah, I think that's true. I've asked several people who are artists, like, how long can you work? Now, I remember, so we both went to the same grad school, right?
Yeah.
We went to FunPon. And, I mean, those classes are 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
3 hours?
Generally,
right?
I think about
Is that
3 hours.
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't remember anymore. I remember like my bachelor's, my undergrad, the classes were like 5 to 6.
Mhm.
Like we actually had a lunch. That's how long they were.
Wow. So at FunPon, it takes that long, 3 hours, to go into we would have, I mean, in many of the classes, I'll say many, most, you're working from the figure. So you're either painting or drawing the figure for 3 hours. So you have about 15 minutes for the model to come in and settle in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the model has breaks about every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're like 5-minute breaks, but you're working for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's super intense, but and that's like the best. That was the best because you're in an environment with other people who are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So you're all forced. You're forced. You're not forced. You're paying for it. You're paying a lot of money for that degree, right? But you're forced to be in there for 3 hours, like really drawing, right? I mean, like that's what you're doing, and everybody's doing it. And at FunPon, it was like, maybe other schools are like this, but I don't really know. But everybody does it. Nobody slacks off. Nobody goes outside and takes a break and does this or gets a cup of tea. But when I'm at home, it's harder for me to work for 3 hours like that because I don't have the tribe here, that's also working alongside me. We're all like in the same thing. We are doing this drawing, I go over and I make a cup of tea and I mean, like you really got to work to kind of like stay focused for sometimes, for 2 hours.
There's always, when you have a studio that's in the house or in the home or nearby, well, not necessarily nearby. If you have to like travel to your studio, I think there's less things pulling your attention. But when your studio is at your residence, right? There's always a little thing pulling your attention. That's going to distract. There can always be something that's pulling you away from your deep work, pulling you away from your focus. And like you were talking about how you can go to you can get some tea or coffee, and maybe clean up your studio. I wrote this down. There's this writer named Neil. Is it Gaiman? I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he does I think he did the comic book Preacher. I don't read comics, but a lot of comic fans would probably like yell at me for mispronouncing the name or not saying it right. But very well known writer, and he stated when you go to your area of work, especially if it's at your house, right?
Yes. Yes.
So he's a writer, and what he'll do he set his block his time his he set his he has his block of time where he writes. And
Mhm.
and if he doesn't feel like writing, what he'll do is during that block of time, he'll just sit.
Yeah.
Like that's like he has his let's say he has his, I don't know if if he's using a typewriter, an old school, or he has Microsoft Word open and it's open like this. And if he doesn't feel like writing, he does nothing else. He's like, I'm going to be here for 2 hours. I don't feel like writing. He just sits and stares at the screen. You know, that at least your foot is in the door and you're ready to start, right? But if you don't feel like writing, or you don't feel like painting or drawing, at least you're there. And literally force yourself to not partake in any other distraction, right? So like you've allocated your time for writing, you've allocated your time for drawing or painting. If you don't paint or draw, you're at least in the area that you can paint or draw. And then maybe near maybe the last 20 minutes, you're like, okay, I feel like it a little bit, and you get a little bit done. Better than nothing. Better than forcing yourself to do it. Better than like getting distracted by cruising on the internet, because you have the ability to, or piddling with your phone, you know,
Yeah.
because as you said, it takes about another 15 minutes to kind of get resituated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that totally works. That who is the guy that you mentioned?
Neil Gaiman, it's Gaimen. I believe that's how his last name's spelled.
Okay. So yeah. So making it to the studio, especially in summer, is
Yeah.
really hard. So like there are some days that I don't even make it over here. But if I do make it, so my studio is a detached garage.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent so much time, like that's a whole different topic. So pluses and minuses to having a studio that is in your home or in a detached garage, like in my situation, versus like you have another space that's totally separate. So we considered, or I considered, and I say we because my husband and I, I mean, when you're married, you have to make these types of decisions together because it's like you have the same financial situation when you're married, right? So we have shared money. So what are we going to do? Are we going to have a studio that's like, so in St. Charles, Missouri, like in the city that I live in, or it's St. Charles, which is a suburb basically of St. Louis. So we have the Foundry Art Center. So at one point I thought about, renting a space there. Well, that's 200. At the time that I looked, it was 200 and something dollars, right? So you're going to pay 200 and something dollars for rent, or are you gonna try to make a space in your house? So all artists, I think, want a space where they can work.
Yeah.
Like that's a major important aspect of your career and of your work. So we decided that we were going to stay in our current home. We were going to build a detached garage. But like you said, the garage that we built is like, it's like this great, I mean, it is like this crazy garage. It is like this, everybody at the time, I have to say, like our neighbors and like we're in the historic area. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot even believe that. Like, how are you getting away with, like, we built this crazy 2-story garage that's almost as big as our house." But that's what I wanted. So it's just a financial decision. But that being said, like you said, when like I'm so close to the house that they can come and find me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have those distractions. So, but I don't know that I would even make it like to a studio for me personally. Maybe other people are really good at that. I don't know. Everybody has to answer that question for themselves. Like if I had to go down to the Foundry, which is less than a half mile away, the farther the distance, the harder it is to get over there.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
It's,
truly.
It's friction. There's friction.
Yeah, you have some friction. And it's hard enough to walk from my back door, like a couple yards over to my studio.
Yeah.
So, you take the good, pluses and minuses. In the end, I'm glad that we made the decision to do the detached garage. And now the funny thing is now everybody's doing that. I mean, whether they're artists or not artists, like everybody's making this garage. And now it's not so crazy of an idea, but 10 years ago it was kind of a crazy thing.
You started a trend?
Yeah, and I did. We did. Yeah. Well, some other people started it before me, and then it's a long story on it. But yeah, there were some other people in the neighborhood who were doing that sort of thing, building a detached garage. That was, like an alternate space or an office space or, like, because the houses in my neighborhood have like a little shed, typically, or a, like a carport. I want to, what do you call those? Like just like a covering,
Yeah.
They had that. And now a lot of people are building garages. So that are multifunctional because, they want to live in the historic area, but they, the space is limited and all of that. So anyway, you had hit on something else that I didn't answer.
I don't recall, but I was going to bring up something about the foundry.
Okay.
Regarding like having to go there. I remember, I don't know if this is true or still true, or if I misread, but I believe also if you were a studio artist there,
yes,
there was some requirement for you to be there a certain amount of times during the week during actual business hours. So like there was a requirement apparently to either be there during business hours or open during certain um, during artists like art exhibitions for guests to come in and look, or there was like certain things that you had to do that in order to be there. Like you had to actually be open a certain amount of time, and not, you can't just go there whenever you want to, or you could go there whenever you want to, but you got to be there during some business hours as well as in the evening if you feel like if you like the work in the evening as well.
Yes. So I think that what you're saying is true, although I couldn't confirm it.
Yeah.
I couldn't confirm it because I don't know that it's an absolute fact.
Yeah.
So yes, I do think that was part of the deal. And ultimately it was like, do we want, so, the whole concept of renting, I'd done that before. And, I mean, that if that works for you, then great. But we just, like, I can't justify. I would rather put money into like something in my house, something for my house, like I did, where I don't have to answer to anybody, and it's an investment. So, I mean, like, if I die, I mean, we are all going to die, but if I died, in 5 years, then, this would be a fabulous office for someone, who, or anything. I mean, it would be a great extra bonus room for anyone, so you're adding value. I see it as adding value to the house. Or another artist would come in and be like, oh my gosh, an artist lived here and I'm going to use this as my studio, so yeah. Or my kids, I tell my kids, if you decide that you want this house, this could be your office someday, in whatever you decide to do. So to me, that's more important than putting money into. Although I'm sure there are some benefits there at the foundry. The whole idea of the foundry in St. Charles area was that you're being exposed, which is great.
Yeah.
You're being exposed to a lot of different people, and you're going to get a lot of traffic down there. But I don't know how much traffic they get, and I hope they're getting a lot of traffic. But I don't know. I mean, all of those are uncertainties that we just take chances in, and it's up to the individual to make that decision.
Of course. You were talking, I think in passing, you mentioned that Fontbonne was like the 2 greatest years of your life. And then you also spoke about Webster. You got rejected by Webster, and you were very grateful for that. Talk
Yeah,
about that.
sure. So gosh, so I went to Fontbonne in 1999. So before that, I went to community college, like Forest Park Community College, to develop my portfolio, and then I applied to Webster and I applied to Fontbonne. And so I had an interview at Webster with Jerry Au and some other guy. I don't remember, but I do remember Jerry Au. And they looked at my work, which was, I was at that time, I was doing a lot of I was doing a figurative class at Forest Park. And so that was a lot of the portfolio that I've submitted. And they said, if you're doing a lot of figurative work, maybe you should check into Fontbonne.
Yeah.
Kind of like you don't belong here. Because Webster is known as the school that they are developing more of a conceptual artist program. That's what they've been known for in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Conceptual art and conceptual artists. And Fontbonne is known for traditional methods, figurative work, learning the fundamentals. So anyway, it was kind of like, okay. I was like sort of hurt for a minute. And then it was one of those it really was a turning point. And it was like, I remember I had an apartment in South City, and I came home and I was like, I think I've been rejected. And this is not looking good. But it was sort of like, it definitely was an intuitive moment, because I took what they said. Where someone tells you, have you ever had this moment, Matt, where someone tells you, like, you should go this way? And you go, maybe I should. So I didn't know a thing about Fontbonne, and I said, I remember just very specifically saying, maybe I will check out Fontbonne. Fine. I thought I wanted to go to Webster. So I did. I checked out Fontbonne. And so at that time, this is way before you went there. You went there in 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you graduate?
I think I started earlier than that, but I think I graduated around 2014. I don't remember.
Okay,
time is weird for me.
Okay, so you were there around, you graduated 2014. So this was when we were in the old building. So this was, I don't remember the exact building, but it was on the top floor of this, really old building. And the whole art department was on this floor. And I visited, and the work was just absolutely amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was the most magical time of my whole life, because it was really a moment where going to Fontbonne, but prior to that, I saw work in the studios that students were creating that was just so amazing. Like I thought, and I wasn't very good. I wasn't very, I didn't know the fundamentals. I just had a desire and an interest to create art. But as you know, our instructors there, Tim, Liddy, and Victor Wong, they're really good teachers. And but the student work was just amazing. So, for anybody who wants to go to, I think there's so many misconceptions for art programs and what art, there were like there are a lot of different types of programs that cater to the needs of many different artists. And so our program was more based, and emphasis on the fundamentals. So when I saw the work in the studios, that just, I mean, I couldn't believe that that was the work. And I almost felt like, wow, like could I even get to be that good? But it was definitely something that I wanted. And I talked to Tim. I remember talking to Tim. I mean, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was about, but I talked to him, and then I applied and I got in, and the 2 years that I was there was just so the time that I was there, we just had an amazing group of students that were there, and they were so gifted that
It helps being around that.
I mean, so Victor is probably, I mean, I have nothing to compare him to, but I just know that he is like the best teacher, like one of the best. He's just one of the best people, one of the best persons. That and he's just that he's living his life purpose, in his teaching methods are just like you want to you want to do your best for them, for both of them. But Tim was more like making you think, and Victor was more like, this is how you draw, and this is how you paint, and this is how you do that. And he was just so, and I just loved it. I loved every minute of it. And the students that were there were amazing. So I was immersed. Did you feel that way too, or no?
There is something to be said about about like camaraderie, about like being in a group of like-minded, people when you're artists, when you really have a passion and you have something to talk about, because this is going to sound like, can be kind of, being an artist, like, not, well, up until recently, like, because of live streams and all this other stuff, but before, it'd be kind of a lonely endeavor, where you're working by yourself, toiling, and you're literally by yourself working. And either it depends on how you work. Some people work with in a quiet studio. Some people like music. Some people like to listen to radio. But regardless, you're by yourself laboring away. And there is something to be said about being in a studio, working with other artists and seeing what they're doing and talking to them and asking them what they were thinking, and appreciating what they're doing. And also, I don't think this is as big of as I don't think this affects today's students as much as it did me or my generation of students, because being around really good artists makes you want to be better, or at least me.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, I was around some really spectacular artists, and I was like, man, I suck. And I thought I was pretty. I thought I was pretty good. Not like great, but good, decent. And I'm like, gosh, this guy's is good. This girl's good. Man, I gotta start like cranking out work. I gotta really focus, because I need to bring myself on this level. There was a level of happy, like competitive, spirited competition. Either it was unspoken, or there was actual literal spirited like competition between other artists, and you were like, your goal is like, I want to not be that person, but like this person on a certain level. I want to be on that level, and the fact that you're around that person levels you up.
Yes.
Now, as a teacher today, I don't feel that a lot of students do that. I don't get that feeling, that type of drive that I felt, because I would recall, like, the people I'm around, they would work, and be painting for hours, and then they finish their painting, or they stop working on the painting, and then come and start another painting. They would juggle paintings. At that time, I never thought about juggling paintings, but they would juggle paintings. They work on 3 or 4 paintings at a time. I was like, well, that sounds like a good idea. I have a wall. I have enough wall space to work on 3 or 4 paintings. Why don't I do that? If I don't feel like working on this painting, I'll work on that. It's never like it's not apparently clear that was a thing that you could do. It's not like, oh, you what, you can work on multiple paintings, but yeah, there was a a like a camaraderie, a friendship, spirit of competition that is almost unmatched, because you really can't, when you're working outside of that environment, you can only, you're competing against yourself essentially.
Well, yeah. So, I almost feel like there should be a support group, because well, I would like to think that we had like the best group, which I'm sure we did. It was just a very special time.
Yeah.
With I do believe in synchronicity, and so, it's just like these souls came together, to interact, during that 2 years. And the artwork that was created during that time, at least in my group, was just fantastic. There's nothing, just that experience of just seeing their work, the work that was produced, and then also the personalities. Like, artists are the best people that I know. There's just, it's almost like I could write a book about it, but there's just, there was so much to every personality there.
Mm-hmm.
Just more than, artists are looking for something more than, just going to work and like a regular life. You go to work, you come home, you make dinner, artists want to get in touch with the spiritual, or what drives the artist.
Yeah.
And so we had these personalities that were just amazing, and we had these teachers that were amazing, and I don't know, maybe everybody in an art program feels this way, I don't know. But it was something that was really unique and special, and it was something that it was the best 2 years of my life. And the amount of talent, I was the person who didn't have as much talent as some of the other students. And I worked really hard because I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be as good as they were. And so the students that were very good were Patrick Servedio and Ben Schambach and Dallas Woodson, who's one of my best friends still. And then my friend Mihan Kwan. So we were kind of like the same. We ended up being best friends. She's from Korea. And all of us had such like amazing stories. It was just like life experience stories. Even at that, I thought I was old when I went to grad school. I was like 28. But I remember Mihan, so we were in this old building, and there was just something about the old building that we just all loved. And they were building the new building at that time for us, which is what you were in when you were there. And so they were like somewhere in between the MA and the MFA program, they were building this new building.
Yeah.
But the old building was just so dirty and just so, there's something that I've always loved about like old school like an old school. There's like dirt. There's, I'm a very clean person, but as far as art is concerned, like there's, it's just like you could smell all of the paint and that, you could smell the mineral spirits, and you're like everything is just like seeped in there for many, many years. And there's something about that I love. And like no new building is going to have that. So when we moved to the new building, I was like, well, what's this going to be like? It wasn't as good. I'm going to admit it wasn't as good as the old building.
That new building smell.
Yeah, it had that new building, new carpet, new thing smell. And there was something about the old stuff that just, anyway. But Mihan, my friend Mihan from Korea, she had a studio before me, and she had this little tiny, tiny room. And she was like cranking out these paintings, like, and it was all portraits, and she was very, very good. Or I felt like at that time that she was very good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like, what am I doing? But because everybody was very, I want to say talented, but just, gifted, very gifted, those people who are gifted at the fundamentals and knowing the figure, and they're accurate, and they can draw, portrait, and all of, just all of those things. And so I worked really hard, and I went, I just immersed myself. I didn't, I had a full-time job at that time, but I basically had a part, like a weekend job per diem. And I went to school. I didn't date anyone at that time. I just went to school, and that's all that I did. And I eventually, like, something happened. So that was the magic of being in the grad school, this grad school that we were in, was that something happened where something, like, it almost seems like it was just like one day, like one day my work just
flipped.
It did.
And
it was like
a switch was flipped.
It did. And yeah, but I mean, I worked, and then all of a sudden I was like, there. And that was of course, the best part, along with all of the personalities and the, just being able to have that time to go to school. All I did was I went to school and I went to work. My apartment was something that I slept in. And then and then we all got together. We had critiques. We went out together. We were a family, really. So some students had other, had marriages and kids, but not, it's almost like not many of them at that time.
Yeah.
And so we were just all together. The time that we were together was just, like condensed. And so that was it. That was and it was the best 2 years of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't claim ignorance on this, about this, because I don't know if there's any other like profession or degree that you search or that you go into, you have that type of like relationship with, that you would with like a group of artists. I don't know, because I only know that, so I can't be like, I was an English major and I was with a bunch of writers and we were writing together,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the same. It's the same as it is with like artists. I think it's a completely different beast, and a completely different like just energy that you get. And I totally understand that, like that type of family, that type of like those late nights in the studio, in a grad studio, and there's a bunch of other artists there, and they're playing music or something, and they're doing something, and then you're there kind of toiling away, and you're like, I want to talk to this person. I want to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's a great part, is that you can go over to somebody's studio. So we were there. I was there. Like I said, I was there more than I was at my apartment.
Yeah.
And we'd stay there at all hours, And if somebody else was there, then you could go down the hall, and say, hey, like, let's talk about this, what do you think of this painting or whatever you're working on, And so when you leave grad school, that's what's difficult. That's what the book
It's
should
gone.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to create all of this magic on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe that the magic, you can still, it's just like you have to find your own way, which is the challenge. I mean, we all want that challenge, but it's difficult. And so some of us decide to have families like I did, or like you did. And then, then you have more everything, you
Oh
have
yeah.
more everything. So, and then it's hard to find the time, it's hard to find the space, it's hard to, it's like if it's important to you, then you have to do it. And it's art is not something that you retire from.
Oh yeah.
Like we're not, I have friends that are talking about retirement.
Yeah.
Because I'm 47, soon to turn 48. And they're talking about like their retirement. Well, art is not something that you retire. I don't want to retire from it.
Oh yeah. No, like the artists will keep working till the day that they pass. They die, right? And I find that so people will retire from the work, but an artist will keep making work and till they're gone, which is something that an average person may or may not understand that concept. Like, what do you mean? You're still going to be working? You should be like chilling out on the beach, you know?
No, I'm just beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
grad school was the start. I mean, it started before then, but then now I mean, it's just the way the world is now, and you know, so many things have changed for artists, and there's a different way to do it all. There's a different way, now I have to put my work out into the world. So that's now my next challenge. And it's just like there's so much information that, and there's like, I could spend my lifetime, I will spend my lifetime painting, drawing, creating, and there will be plenty of information for me to create. There's not, it's endless. It's endless when you love art, or when you're creative, or when it doesn't really matter what kind of artwork you do. It's just, there's next lifetime, hopefully I'll be still creating more work. Like, there's not enough time to
Of
create
course.
everything that I want to create. Or maybe you feel that way too.
Oh yeah, I do. Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I want to know something. We're looking a little bit more personal, if you
Okay.
don't mind. So
Mm-hmm.
you
We'll see, because you gave
I,
me a couple surprises, but that's okay.
oh well, you told me that I didn't realize that your sobriety was really recent. You know,
2019.
yeah, like fairly recent. Is that to me that I thought so like what did you decide, what made you decide to become sober?
Yeah. So I was a gray area drinker for a long time. When I was in grad school, drinking.
What's a gray
Everybody.
area drinker?
Yeah. So like in between, like you think of somebody who's like sloshed all the time,
Oh.
like really has a problem. Really has a problem. I'm just saying that, like, that's society. And then like somebody who doesn't drink at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm in the middle, because there are a lot of people who are gray area drinkers who, like, you can't really tell, that they have an issue,
Yeah.
but it was all internal, and it built up over time. And I had two little kids, and I knew that I was drinking. I knew that I was drinking too much, like in my 20s. But then I could kind of like I would have periods where it would be better,
Yeah.
periods where it would be worse. So that's what makes it confusing. And I wasn't a complete train wreck. That's a gray area drinker, I think. I wasn't a complete train wreck. Like, I didn't like. I say it was control. It was controlled for a really long time. I mean, it never really was, but I started getting like, I just knew in my head like, this is too much, and then I started cycling just a whole lot more, and I wanted to do this race, and so I was trying to cut back for the race, and then so I was able to cut back for the race. So this gives you the idea that you can control it, because I did cut back for this race the first year that I did this really big race, which was a 100-mile gravel race in Kansas. It was previously called the Dirty Kansas. This year it was called Unbound. So they changed the name. But when I did that race that first time, I mean, that was like the most strenuous my training had been. I'd always been exercising I was very big into fitness, but also like I like to party. And I liked to party in grad school, as did everyone else. Everyone was doing something, pot, drugs, alcohol. That was a big thing for artists back then. Well, probably still. I don't know. But anyway, so for this first year that I did this race it was in 2018. Yeah, 2018 was this big race. And so I really cut back on my drinking. And I would only drink on the weekends. But it was really hard for me. And that was like kind of an indication, like, because it was so hard for me to stop, like, what's going on here? And then and because it was like this buildup, and that's what alcohol does, like, over time, is that, you become more addicted to it. So when I was in grad school, like in my art years, like, we all drank, we all went out. I had, like, on the weekends, we would drink in the studio sometimes, but it wasn't out of control at that point. And then when I trained for that race, it was just very difficult for me to control it. And then I did the race again in 2019. And I couldn't control. I really had a hard time. I had a harder time than the year prior. So in 2018, I could just drink on the weekends, but then in 2019, I was training, but then I just had a heart, like, I just was not able to. I would drink after rides, like, which is kind of a thing, like, if you look it up, now they have like beer tents after race. Well, that's because you are racing, and then you're burning all this energy, you need calories, and then you drink and you get this, like, crazy high, right? So then it came to the point after that race in 2019 where I was just like, it kind of got out of control, and I just, like, I wasn't realizing how much I was drinking. And
do you know how much?
Well, one morning I woke up with this headache that was just out of this world, like the kind of headache that I was like, I am never drinking again. Like, I'm never drinking again. But I'd had a lot of I'd had a lot of nights like that. And that is one thing about the grad school group that I have to say. I mean, we had a fabulous group, and we just bonded, and they were the best people, but we were all big drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know about your group, but we went out and we drank a lot. And anyway, so I woke up one morning and I was like, oh my gosh, did I really drink that much? Because, I knew I had started with a full bottle of vodka, and it was like half gone. But I didn't know that I drank and I was getting reflux, and I knew, I was like, this has got to stop. It's like really bad. And then I couldn't imagine stopping. And like, how do I stop? And actually I thought about it, for a long time, and I was tired of the headaches, and I felt like my days were slipping away, and I didn't know how to start with my art again. Like after the kids, the kids were older and they were going to school, but yet I wasn't making the most of my time.
Yeah.
And
with booze, you can kind of like hours can pass and you don't even know it.
Well, it was mainly like in the morning, like I'd kind of have this feel, like I would just be very slow to start, and then I would exercise. So I would exercise a lot still to like work it off.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then, I was like, this is just like this, all of these things so I was drinking every day. And at the same time, I was biking. Like I said, I had done the 2 races.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I was doing these crazy races, this is like a really hard race. This is like not just a regular old 100-mile. It's like this really strenuous, like 100-mile race in gravel. So, but the fact that I could do it, and then I was drinking, like it kind of almost gave me like, well, I must not have a problem, because would I be able to do all of that if I had a problem? But I still could do it. But then I realized that it just like, this is going in the wrong direction. And I was listening to, so I listened to a lot of podcasts on my bike rides, and I was listening to Dandapani and a lot at that time. And
Dandapani,
Dandapani, Dandapani, Dandapani. So he's a monk, or he was a monk.
And what do you have to say?
Well, and I was listening to James Clear also.
James Clear, is he that habit guy?
He's the habit guy.
What is it? Atomic Habits?
Yeah, Atomic Habits. And
I like this book.
So I read the book cover to cover. So I was listening to a lot of him. I was listening to Dandapani, and Dandapani said something like you have to look at what you're doing every day. And I was drinking every day. Like most days. Like it came to a point where I wasn't not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might drink a little bit. It wasn't every night that I was drinking like a ton, but I was drinking every day. And there was something that he said that was like, if you're drinking or if whatever you're doing every day, this is the person that you are, right? So this is the person that you are. So if we're creating art every day, we're an artist. Goes back to what we were talking about before, right? If we're creating art every day, then we are an artist. If we're playing piano every day, then we are a piano player. And I was like, I'm drinking every day, and I'm biking almost every day. So what do I really want to be? Do I want to be a drinker? Like it seems so simple, right?
Yeah.
Like, do I really want to be a drinker every day? So the thought, but then of course it was like, of course, this huge journey of like, well, okay, I think that this is not going in the right direction. This is preventing me from doing my artwork, from maximizing my time, which is, that's what alcohol does, that's what drugs do. Alcohol/drugs, like they're preventing you, like that prevents you from maximizing your potential, getting in touch with your inner being everything that you need to be to fulfill your life purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it sort of takes over. But drinking and alcohol specifically, like, that's what I know most about, because that's what I did, versus other drugs. So I haven't done any other drugs, but it's very like slow, like the progression of the problem
Mm-hmm.
is slow. So, it may take a long time.
You don't notice it.
Yes. And that's the funny thing about addiction, is that when you're in it, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes, like that headache that I had, it was after I had that race in 2019. And I was like, I woke up and I was like, I should have a headache because this is how much I drank. Like, this is crazy. This is like, I can't do this anymore. And then I was like, I really have to stop. And to come to the realization that you need to stop drinking is a really tough thing to come to grips with, because you're like, I think I need to stop forever. Like, that sucks, because this is my thing, right? Because it was so much my thing. It was so much my thing as a college student. It was so much my thing in grad school. It was so much my thing at, like, the wine years when I first got married. I mean, it was all like, and we entertained a lot.
Yeah.
And the wine went with the food, and then it was, it was all high class. It was all high class booze. It wasn't me, like with like whatever at,
A 40 and Mad Dog 2020.
That it wasn't that. It was like, we can afford these nice drinks. And it was all about nice drinks and going out and everything. And then you're like, I can't do this anymore, because like, this has really gotten a hold of me. Like, I can't believe this. When did this happen? That's how it works. When did this happen? Like, holy shit. But it's when looking back, you go, this has been happening for a while.
Yeah.
This has been going on for a while. So then I had to stop, and you really have to kind of press the pause button. That's what I've told other people, who are close to me or wanting to quit or whatever. It sucks, because you got to say, well, like, this might take some time. And it does. It takes some time.
How'd you stop?
Oh, gosh. Look at sunrise today. Like, oh, I mean, like, so I didn't want to do AA. That's a big thing. Do I do AA? I did not want to do AA. I started with Annie Grace. She's one of the big sober, what do I want to say? She's a big sobriety advocate, and she has a book, This Naked Mind. Started there. She supposedly, the book is really hard to get through. But I was like, I'm going to read this, because this is the kind of person I am, like,
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I'm going to read this cover to cover. People say this works for them. After they read the book, their subconscious mind has changed, and they are no longer drinking. All right, I'm good. I'm going to do it. But I still wanted to drink. I really like drinking. So that didn't work. I felt like I was broken. So then I just kept listening. There are a lot of podcasts out there. I kept listening, kept trying. And I made Sunrise Today, which keeps me accountable, or is meant to keep me accountable. So I used a lot of prayer and a lot of meditation. So it's all about the intention. So back to the meditation. So, you have to tell the universe, like, okay, this is what I want now. And then the universe responds by saying, okay. And then you set the wheels in motion, but you kind of have to be decided on this. So the trouble is that when you are like, well, I don't really know if I want to quit or not, then the universe doesn't know, like, what you want. So I had to kind of come to the conclusion, like, I don't want this anymore. This is really bad for me. I don't want to be drinking every day. I don't know how to get out of it. So then you have to go for the next highest step, which is like, point me in the direction of what I need to do. Point me in the direction of the knowledge that I need. So I've read like 1 million books. Well, not 1 million, but an Atomic Habits was one of the books that I read because I originally, like during this period where I wanted to quit or was thinking that I needed to quit because I thought that I just had a bad habit, not an addiction. So that's why I paused in the middle of Atomic Habits because you said you read the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've read the book?
Audiobook.
Okay. So the first half of the book is how to cultivate good habits. The second half of the book is how to get rid of bad habits. And I'm like, I know there's this one bad habit that I have. So I stopped reading halfway through because I was like, I know I don't want to quit drinking. So I'm just going to push pause on that book. So I read half of the book, like maybe I'll develop the good habits. Like I'm going to try to develop all the good habits first. I'm going to do everything that he says and still keep drinking. Because when you're drinking and you're addicted, you don't want to quit drinking.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, so here's me. I'm going to do everything that this guy says.
Except
quit drinking and see if that works. And it didn't work. Of course it didn't work.
Wasn't the premise I haven't read it in a while or listened to it in a while. But like, wasn't like the way to kind of stop bad habits was to recognize the trigger and to start a new habit and replace it from that trigger or something like that, or like replace it somehow? I don't really remember.
You reverse, if I'm remembering correctly, all of the things that you want. So it's like a 4-step process, but so to cultivate a good habit, you reward. So that's how I first started Sunrise Today, because I was like, I'm going to make rewards. That's what I'm going to do. So you want to, there's a lot of different things you can do to cultivate the good habit. And then to break the bad habit is the inverse of that, if I'm remembering correctly. So you want to make it not desirable, or you want to not make it easy. So like in the case of alcohol, you want to take it out of the home. Then that makes it not easy.
Yeah.
So the easier that something is, so like we're talking about the studio, the easier it is to get to your studio, the more you're going to get over there, the more you're going to
friction. Pay. Yeah.
So you're making it easier. You're reducing the friction. So with alcohol, you're gonna, but I didn't want to read that last part of how to break the bad habits. So, but eventually I did, because I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to figure out how to do this. So you make it, whatever your bad habit is, you make it undesirable versus desirable. For me, I tried to set up rewards. So I went so far as like, this is kind of like a combo method, but when I would be triggered in the evening, so a lot of my progress was about, and I think this is true for everyone, you got to figure out what your triggers are. So a lot of my trigger was making dinner, because I would drink and cook.
Yeah.
So I would take a jar, and then I would, this is sort of adapted from the one of the James Clear, what do I want to say, techniques or models or something that he described in his book. So I would take marbles, and if I was triggered, I would put the marble in the jar. So the marble in the jar would signify, so this was in the evening I would do this, and I don't do it anymore because I don't need to do it. But at first I would take the marble, if I was like, I really want to drink so bad, then I would take the marble and I would drop it into the jar. So I would have 2 jars. So one jar full of marbles and then the other jar no marbles. And so then dink. So there's something about that sound. So he uses like behavioral psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So you would do the marble and dink, and then I'd be triggered again, and then dink. And so there's something rewarding about that you're like, okay, I was triggered, and that went in there, and I passed it up. And I had this whole system where I was like, okay, if the jar is full, then I get a reward. So I set up reward system for myself. So because it's important for humans to have rewards, like if we're doing something that that's difficult for us, then we want a reward. So
Yeah.
okay, then I would set up these rewards for myself, and I wrote them on a little note card and was like, okay, if this jar has 15 marbles in it, then I can go to visit with a friend for 30 minutes, like, and then like no restrictions. Like, I'm not going to feel guilty about it, and I'm not going to, because as an artist, you're like, oh, I need to be working in the studio all the time, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd set up little rewards for myself. Or I can go, get a cup of coffee and just, it doesn't matter what time or whatever. So anyway, that partially answered that question. If I went back and I read the book, I could tell you exactly what I do know that it's the inverse of, it's like the opposite. We should post that somewhere in your show notes. Like, it's the opposite of cultivating the good habits. So for the good habits, you make it easy, make it desirable, set up a reward, something like that. There are like four or five things.
I haven't read it in a while, or listened to it in a while, so it's almost like not familiar to me anymore. I have to one thing I need to start doing more of is actually re-listening a lot of these books that I'm familiar with, so I can be constantly reminded of some of the key aspects that are in them that are that I find valuable, you know. A lot of like finance books. I have a lot of like financial books, like like scheduling books, um, habit books. I find
Okay.
those fascinating because um, I'm one of those artists that terrible at like navigating my day. Like I was I don't know if it was just me or a mixture of not being taught how to do that because it's a learned skill. It's not like your parents tell you, here's what you do with your day. Here's your calendar. You got to block it out. And they're not sitting you down and telling you how to do these things. And, and if they do them, they're not doing it in front of you. So you're not learning by association or mimicking your parents. So I wasn't exposed to that as a kid. I didn't go to my dad's office and like, what are you doing, Dad? Like, I'm scheduling. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Show me how to do that. It's not like that occurred in my life. So I had to learn them, um, to to uh, um, to improve upon them. And also I had to what you did with your Instagram page. You made yourself accountable by creating this page, So I've kind of done that through other venues, like avenues, I guess, where I would draw every day or do stuff like these artist interviews where you have to schedule these things, and now that they're locked in, you can't just retract that, you know.
Right.
It's you just can't bail on it. So you kind of force yourself to create accountability, and by doing that, I think it creates like habits, or at least for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So Matt, we're almost up to 2 hours. Is there anything else that we should talk about, or should we like do it to be continued? Because like we haven't even talked about the work.
I know, right?
Which is kind of funny, right? I mean, like we haven't even talked about the artwork, but all the stuff that we talked about is super important. So, it's hopefully somebody will be watching and getting some, I don't know, tips.
Well,
Techniques.
I leave this up to you. Would you like to do a to be continued? Because we can do another one. We can schedule another one if you're running on low on time. I understand.
Yeah. Like a 2 hour interview is a lot. So I think that this is good for now. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to. I think that we have a lot to talk about, and I think that that we connect in so many ways. So, and I'd like to see the response, of what people, if people are interested in what we had to say, and like maybe we could take. I mean, I haven't talked about the work at all, or what the website is going to be, or that whole process. I mean, there's so much more to talk about, but
Yeah, we had a list of things, and not only my questions, but things that we kind of went over that we talked about prior. We just talked for about an hour of just what to do, and I think that was very beneficial. And we haven't even tackled the artwork. I know.
That's
It's
funny. We
great.
didn't even talk about the work at all, but that's okay because the stuff that we talked about is more important, I think, to the artist.
Well, yeah, I believe one of the things that is important is aligning aligning your day, habits, schedules. Very important for an artist. Way undervalued. Way undervalued to be a professional artist. No one talks about that. No one talks about the value of you got to have a schedule.
Well, and we didn't talk about the other thing that we had. So Matt and I talked a little bit about what we were going to talk about, and that was like an hour and a half. Let's be honest. And we wanted to talk a little bit about how things have changed since when I graduated, which is 2001.
Yeah.
Till now. And I think that there's we could talk about that again too, like how I think that there's so much. So everything's changed, and we have so many opportunities.
Yeah.
As artists now, and so I'm trying to. My intention is to find what those opportunities are and present those on my Jennifer Klemp artist page on Instagram. And you're trying to do the same thing, Matt, really, with all that you're doing with your interviews, like you can, we didn't even talk about monetization, and
yeah, there's
profit.
lots of things.
We're like two people who are, I would consider us to be, I don't know, groundbreakers, earth shakers. I don't know, something like that. What would you say?
I think we have like certain thoughts that are very similar with relation to how you navigate the world as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I find it's interesting to hear that you brought up James Clear and a lot of these other individuals. I'm gonna get those from you actually after this. I want to write down some notes and check them out. And I want to share some people or some books that I've find very interesting that you might be interested in as well. But maybe let's put a pin on it and we'll schedule another one.
If
and
you want to.
I'd love that. Because as you said, we got probably another 2 hours of content that we can talk about easily. And I'm assuming that there might be this could be at least a two-part conversation. Maybe have it'd be great to have that. I think it'd be kind of cool to have you on for a third time. Actually, here's something funny. I just listened to an interview today about this financial guy, and he was talking to this person like, this is the third time I had you on here, So there might be something. There might be something to it. How we talked about in the very beginning, like signals that are being directed towards you, and you don't even know it until you kind of take action and pick them, or what is it called? Like you just take action, and then go ahead.
Your internal guidance system.
Yeah, a little bit like you're like instinctually. That's something that might be firing in your brain, and on a subconscious level, that might be something to pursue in the future. So I really do think that there's a lot more that we can dive into. And anyways, so let's just put a pin on this conversation. We'll continue on. We'll reschedule and finish the rest later. To be continued, which is going to be my first time I've done this. Jennifer, where can people find you?
So I have a new website that is being constructed. So jenniferklemp.com. So that's the new website, and it's being created by somebody that I really love, and her name is Megan Reed. So she's M Reed Studio. So I decided to invest finally in getting a website created in the proper way. So that's an investment that I am making this year. So theyre, and then Jennifer Klemp Artist on Instagram. And then also, if you're interested in sobriety and the work that I'm doing for sobriety, then it's Sunrise Today _. So Sunrise Today. So so that's my sobriety account. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. I'm on Facebook too, but Instagram is like right now the main hub, just because I feel like I can control. We talked about that too. Like I can I just need to get. You have lots of different things that you can be doing. It gets very confusing on where you're supposed to be. Do I do YouTube? Do I do Twitter? Do I, I work in progress on that. So I decided to just do Instagram, and I have the two accounts. I consider them to be twins. I mean, like they're like twin babies. So that's how I see them, and that's how we could talk more about that with intuition too, because that came from an intuitive. That actually came from a dream, from two dreams about twins. So I consider the Sunrise Today, which is a sobriety account, and then the Jennifer Klemp Artist to be the twins. So they're both my babies. So I give attention to one and then attention to the other, because you just can't leave one twin out on the street, like if he's your baby and stuff. So anyway, so those are my twins. Those are my twin endeavors. Those are the the endeavors that are twins, I guess you could say.
Jennifer, I just want to say thank you again for taking time out of your day to talk to me, and I really do truly look forward to scheduling with you another conversation in the future.
All
you know,
right,
cool. And everyone that was watching, just want to say thank you for watching and participating, observing. I know that your time is valuable, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your day to, learn a little bit about the arts, learn a little bit about Jennifer Klemp, and learn about what are some of the things that artists need in their toolbox to succeed. And this is the type of thing that you like, and if you like watching artist interviews and you enjoy seeing live art streams, don't forget to subscribe for more. I really do appreciate it. I just have to use that because I made it, and I was like, I'm going to use it.
What? What's going on?
Yeah. So I have to use that because you know what? I think it makes it a little bit more interesting of a live stream. And so, anyways, thank you so much, everyone. Jennifer, I'll be speaking with you after the live stream. We'll catch up just briefly, and then
Okay.
we'll part our ways.
All right.
Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Pierson out. Cheers. Bye.